Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to another episode of Found Footage Fridays with my co-host, Tom Rammer.
Another very special episode, right? We've got it. Yeah, something really exciting.
Yeah, so we did the screener and the different kind of style for the review for the movie Hunting for the Hag.
Hunting for the Hag, yep.
I always want to put in extra words, Hunting for the Hag. And so someone commented on that video.
Yep.
So his Instagram handle, which will be in the description for this episode, is like thatfilmdudejake or something like that. So I couldn't remember.
Yep.
Like, what was his name? Yeah. So Jake Robinson commented on the video and asked if we took if people could just ask about letting us see screeners for their movies. And so I told him to message me. He messaged me on Instagram. We were talking back and forth, and I was going to figure it out. We've been trying to kind of stick to summary themes and just see, so it's going to kind of depend. But when he told me what this film was about and what it was called, there was like no way we weren't going to cover it. So this literally today, you will be able to watch this as of today. It comes out today. The 2023 found footage film, The Wendigo. Anyone who knows me knows of my love for Wendigos. So I was like, yes, found footage, Wendigos. I'm so pumped. So
it's really exciting getting to see some of these movies before anybody else. Yeah, I feel like I don't know. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
It is really cool. It's exciting in so many ways. And then I get like, it makes me feel really good that people like care enough to want to share with us, like as far as like trusting us and like,
Yep.
So Tom and Angel will be the voices in found footage, like no, pun not intended. One day
we already are. We are already. I mean, who else has like 50 plus episodes just dedicated to
That's so right.
the found footage genre?
Yeah. And so, for a synopsis, this one's pretty short. This film is only I think an hour and 8 minutes. It's very short. But it's essentially, what can I say about the description? I didn't pull one up because I didn't think there was one available. I'm super prepared.
I think there is. No, I think there is.
Okay, I'm gonna look
on IMDb. Yep.
I normally have this pulled up beforehand, but it has been a crazy week in real life. So, The Wendigo 2023.
That's it.
There we go. After a social media star disappears in the woods of North Carolina, his friends are set out to figure out what happened to him. That's pretty short and to the point.
Yeah.
So we're going to do this similar to how we did Hunting for the Hag. So we're not going to do like a super in-depth spoiler conversation about it. We're not going to rate it. This is more of just general thoughts and honestly just to kind of hopefully help promote it as an indie film. It's literally coming out the same day as right today with this episode, and you'll be able to get it on Tubi, of course.
Yep.
It's going to be on Amazon, and I think there's one more place, but if you search this film, it will come up and you'll be able to watch it for yourself. And that's the goal, is to get people to go watch it and check it out for themselves. So,
and you definitely should go watch this movie.
Yeah. And I wanted to say this too, because as I was talking to Jake on Instagram, one of the things he shared with me about this was that some of the concepts that he pulled from the Wendigo lore was things that he kind of come from personal stories of things he experienced when he was younger. Maybe one day we'll get to have him on and he can talk about that stuff.
Cool.
But he just was it pulled from a lot of things for him. So it was, pretty meaningful to tell this story, to say the least. And so
is there, do we know of other Wendigo found footage? Is this the first?
I think it's the first.
I mean, there's Wendigo movies and there's Wendigo
video games and
horror novels and that sort of stuff. But the first found footage Wendigo, we think.
If you're watching this and you knew that there was a found footage Wendigo movie and you didn't tell us, I'm very disappointed in you. Because the Wendigos are my thing. I love Wendigos. And so I'm telling you, when he said what this film was, I was like, I'm in. I'm so in. So
what is it about the Wendigo
that I think is cool?
Yeah.
So actually most cryptids that I like are come from Native American lore. But so the short, if you're not familiar with what like the cryptid of the Wendigo is, also, if I can remember, I'll try to put it in the link for this episode too. I did a Beast and Booze episode on Wendigo where we talked in depth about like the lore and its use in pop culture and like all these things. But essentially, the Wendigo represents greed, like overconsumption, excessive living, and so people who get turned into Wendigos do so because they have over consumed, whether it's like eating, like, so cannibalism is a really big thing with Wendigos, but it's just other things as well. And there's like some really cool lore between like the spiritual possession part of the Wendigo, which actually a lot of people don't really dive into that much. They usually go straight for you ate something, you ate a person, and so now you're a monster. So there's a lot of different kinds of lore, and it's a really old one. It's the lore of the Wendigo has been around for a really long time. It was westernized in like the late 1800s, early 1900s, but it's been the lore of Wendigos and writings about Wendigos have existed forever. And so I just think they're really interesting. They're really fascinating. They tell a story of, you know, morality and the way that you should behave, even in times of like, you know, starvation, or like when you're extreme, like under very extreme circumstances, like you know, like being stranded somewhere where it's like freezing, and like it's just an interesting take on taking too much in dire situations and the effect that can have on somebody. It's a sense of corruption. So I'm just fascinated with them.
I mean, like you definitely are, you know, way more about these than I do. But I mean, this movie, I guess one positive about this movie is it makes me, and obviously hearing you talk about Wendigos right now makes me want to know more. It makes me want to learn, because there probably were things I would say in this movie I didn't appreciate enough because I'm not, you know, as up on maybe as much as you are. Or maybe I didn't notice even, but no, that's really interesting.
Yeah, there's two distinct parts of the lore, and I'll be careful, you know, about what I say specifically, but there's two specific parts of the lore that I feel like never come up, and they came up in this film. So I was very pleasantly surprised by that, and it made my Wendigo heart very happy.
You can't tell me. I wish I knew what you're referring to right now.
I don't know if I could. Well,
give me a clue.
Maybe this won't be giving too much away. And if you feel like after I say it, if you feel like it's too much, I can take it out. But I think, so the mimicking.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah. So that's common, but it's never used.
Okay.
And then the other thing is the spiritual side that I was just talking about, where it can take over and that kind of thing.
So you think they did their research for this movie?
It absolutely. There's no way Jake made this film and he didn't know a bunch of stuff about Wendigos, because the lore, the earthiness of the way the creature looks, like, I mean, this is like, honestly, like, you know, I think we watched so many found footage movies, but you know, for this to be a cryptid that I am like super passionate about and my favorite subgenre of horror, like, I mean, you should already knew probably that I was going to just eat this one up. So, and spoiler alert, I did. I really liked this one a lot. So, but yeah, what do you
So what can we say? Because normally we give a little bit of a rating, which we're not going to do. On a typical episode of Found Footage Fridays, we would each give our rating out of 10 tapes, and then we would spoil the crap out of the movie. But we're not doing either of those things today.
No.
So maybe if we just gave a little bit of a taste of how this movie starts out. Features a streamer. And so I think very different movie in the end, but in the beginning, the setup sort of reminded me naturally reminded me of something like Dash Cam or Deadstream.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you get the streamer who is live streaming in the process, and you got the comments scrolling past, and but from people who are watching. Other than that, it completely goes in a different direction, has a very different vibe than those movies. So I'm not comparing it beyond that. But it features a content creator who goes out into the woods and goes missing. I think it's safe to say that. And then the meat of this movie are a bunch of his friends who go in search of him. Or a bunch of other content creators.
Content creators,
Yeah.
Yep.
Who I thought the acting was great in this movie. I thought the cinematography was really good, which is not something you typically say about a lot of found footage
No,
films. I felt like it felt, for I believe this is their first movie,
I think
or
so.
first.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's his first. I'm not sure, but like
I
it
think
felt,
it is. I think based on my conversations, that was the impression that I got. I think it
yeah.
is.
And so I would say, really well done. Um, they they put out a really good movie. They people who watch this aren't going to know that maybe that these are newer filmmakers.
I
Definitely know
totally
what they're
agree with that.
doing.
Yeah.
Um, and it had all of the elements for. I think these must be fans of found footage because I think this movie had a lot of the elements that we look for in sort of our favorite found footage films.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt that they said it in the middle of the woods. Of course, you got to do that with a Wendigo story, anyways. But
Sure.
um, so some of the typical tropes you see with
Yeah.
Lost in the Woods sort of found footage movies
Hmm.
we see here. Albeit this one is, I would say, even for found footage, it's pretty quick. It moves pretty quick. Gets to the end pretty quickly. So
Agreed.
some pretty gross special effects, if that's your thing. Um, some cringe, like cringe in a gross way, not cringe in a
Some
poorly
like,
done sort of way.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Yeah, totally agree.
Uh, so I mean, personally, I really hope people go out and see this movie
Yeah, I
today,
agree.
tonight, on
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yeah, and I want to say too because it's and this is one of those things that I know you and I talk about on probably every episode. That whole like balance of not seeing enough and seeing too much. I
Yeah.
did not I felt like this was really well balanced because it had multiple things going on. It wasn't just this one very specific thing that was happening.
Yeah.
And I think that was really really well balanced because I didn't feel like I was robbed of seeing it. And,
Right.
I didn't feel like when I finally did get a bigger reveal of what the Wendigo creature actually looks like, I didn't feel disappointed because
Good.
one of the things that, because I mean, if you look this up, there's so many versions of what Wendigos look like. And my favorite ones are the ones that look like earth, like, nature creatures made from
Hmm.
nature, because that's, human nature. I mean, you get the tie-in, but
Yeah.
like when I got my tattoo done, that was one of the things I told him, because my tattooist, because there's so many versions, and I'm like, I need it to look like something that came out of the ground. Like that's what I want. And so when like this reveal and what this creature looked like, I was left feeling really happy about. Whereas in the film, I can't think of another film specifically off the top of my head that does Wendigos, but Antlers was a Wendigo
Yep.
film, and it had a lot of really, really cool components. But that one, the creature design and the limited visibility of it and the way they presented it, I just felt like it fell flat. And I just didn't feel that way with this one. I was
Good.
happy with
Good.
not seeing too much, and I was happy when we finally got like a bigger picture.
I will say, if I had one sort of, I don't even call it a critique, really, but
Hmm.
uh, when I first was watching the movie, there was a character I feel like I think I was supposed to not like, and I figured this
I
out
agree.
afterwards, and I didn't really like the character, but that's was supposed to happen. So I
Yeah.
guess
Yeah, they're
job
awful.
well
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
There's some like intentionally awful characters in this movie that you don't feel terrible or that things happen to them.
Yeah, really. Well,
But
and I will say,
um,
like, I felt like with them all being content creators, I did feel like it kind of covered the spectrum of content creators, right? Because you've
yeah,
got the original guy in the beginning that's like out there because his followers told him to, and it was like a dare, and he's like anything for follows and whatever, right? And you had to like be like a specific subscriber, you had to pay money to like get access to that tier to watch these videos, and you've got like that character. Then you've got the ones that really do like have not what I would consider the not so horrible motive. They want to go out and they want to film it, and they involve someone else. And then you've got the one that you're talking about that's like also really over the top, a pain in the neck. Like, I just felt like it was interesting how many different types of content creators we got in this story, because they're all very different, you know? And I thought that was cool.
Did you, as a content creator, did you feel like this was made by people who know content creators, perhaps?
Maybe, or maybe they just watch a lot of content.
Perhaps, yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely felt like I've seen these people on YouTube before.
As I said, the acting was really good. It was very,
Yeah.
they were pretty believable, I would say.
Agreed.
The group of, especially again, and this is always important to me. I sometimes know very early on if I'm going to like a found footage movie. You know, you have always had these scenes of the main characters going wherever they're going. They're getting in the car, they're packing up, driving somewhere, and it's the natural sort of interaction between, you know, the characters that let you know whether you're going to believe or allow yourself to be tricked for a moment that this is real found footage, a la the Blair Witch Project, which is probably did it the best.
Sure.
And I feel like I had a good feeling at the beginning of this movie that the main characters, they felt really real to me, which is the most important thing, in my opinion, to a found footage film. Yeah. And it's got some scary moments. I feel like certainly this movie, you know, without saying any more, because I don't know how much more we really could say.
Sure.
I really encourage everyone to go out and watch this today.
Yeah. And I think the only other thing I want to add, mostly because I never say things like this ever. I am not a big fan of comedy horror. I don't really like a lot of comedy, but I will say there's some parts in this that I thought were really funny that are meant to be funny. Like the beginning, the guy that goes missing, his whole I'm like, that is literally me camping. That was me. He's like, F this and F that and shut up to like the birds or whatever. I don't know. Like that whole setup, you know, in the
that would have been you. That would have been you, Angel.
That would have been me. I wouldn't have been out in the woods trying to get no Wendigo to come after me. Like that's not a thing. But I think that like just like that, I was surprised that I was able to laugh because like, you know, I'm so weird about that. And like, that's one of the reasons Deadstream was such a huge miss for me, is because it was too silly. And this was more circumstantial humor. And I just thought it was really relatable because like, I'm not outdoorsy. Like you see, like, look how I'm not outdoorsy. And so like when some of those things I just thought were really funny. I thought some of the interactions with the other characters were funny. So the fact that there was humor in this that actually worked for me, I was a little taken aback by that too, because I'm so picky about that. So
yeah, I'm not a fan of humor much at all in found footage, but this worked.
Yeah.
This worked.
Yeah. So, I mean, those are our unspoiled thoughts for the Wendigo. I'll put Jake's links and everything in the description for this episode, as always. You will be able to watch this for yourself on Tubi and Amazon and somewhere else. It's available.
I'll be really curious what everyone thinks after they go see this. So
yeah, circle back.
Let us know what you think.
Yeah, I think it's I'll be curious to see what people think too. Okay, cool. Well, that's gonna wrap up this week's episode of Found Footage Fridays. Go follow Jake. Check out the Wendigo. Next week, what are we talking about?
Next week we are talking about, I believe, the Collingswood story, which is much older. Found footage movie. I think it's from like 2002. So
it is older. And that one you can watch. It's streaming on Tubi.
Yes. It is streaming on Shudder.
So you can go watch that before our episode next week.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on this episode of Found Footage Fridays. Have a good weekend, a great week coming up. And Tom and I will see you next week.
Bye now.